So I've been in the meditation for this past half an hour, and somebody asked me to do a meditation video. Now this isn't a how to do a meditation video, I'll do that later. What it is, I'm going to be speaking through a certain process of awareness. Okay. So what meditation does, when we close down our senses, we close down all the senses except that of awareness. And the depth of meditation is non-thought, which replenishes, soothes, and allows us to enter into God consciousness. And albeit that is of benefit, there's something else that we can do whilst we are in meditation that is very useful. We contemplate on that which we are experiencing here as a human being. We feel the body and we look at the mind. So, in my particular instance, as a 60-year-old person, there are a few things that I need to address. And one of them is that there are times when I don't have the strongest of backs in the lower lumbar region. So it is necessary for me to send cosmic healing energy to that region with the thoughts of healing, empowerment and purity. So over the years I have damaged my lower lumbar region through general activity. And although that region is mostly healed, there is remaining weakness of a constant recurring injury. And so I have to concentrate on that region and send the cosmic healing power to it. Direct my thoughts of creation to that realm. The body is a wonderful thing, and it can heal of its own accord and its own design. But the mind also is very powerful. And what the mind will do on many occasions, it will override the power of the body. That's how powerful the mind is. That's how powerful thoughts are. And so because of these bouts of damage that I've had to my back, which have left me bedridden on many occasions for a week or more, just lying in bed, barely moving, allowing the body to heal. And so now there is a psychological damage that pertains to that lower lumbar region. And I have to condition my mind to obliterate the fear which pertains to that damage. I pause when I say damage because I don't want to say illness, albeit it's a variety of illness. But there are thoughts pertaining to that damage. There is a fear pertaining to it, of its recurrence, because it's a very debilitating thing. And there are often times when I have little twinges which will bring the fear to the forefront. And the pain that I've suffered in that lower lumbar region has been absolutely excruciating, to the point whereby you dare not move. I have to lay in bed on my back for days and nights on end, gently rolling over to urinate, not eating because it's impossible to get up out of bed to defecate. It's impossible to sit on the toilet and exert that amount of pressure. And so one cannot eat, but one has to drink. And so I drink and I urinate into bottles. And then, in the past, I've had very large bottles that contain a lot of urine. In recent times, when it happened, I had the facility of my daughter to come round to help with the emptying of such bottles. Not a pleasant job. And so now, my preventative measure is to have power over the fear, to eliminate the fear, because the fear is very powerful, and the fear is self-rejuvenating, and it will override the function of the genius of the body. So I have to diminish, eradicate the fear, and allow the body to do its genius. Now that isn't a task that you can do in one session, 10 sessions. It takes a lot of time. But it is possible to self-heal. And it comes about via our belief. Now, in the Bible, Jesus is said to have done much healing. And he did it under the premise of people's receiving and believing. It was their belief that healed their bodies. Those that didn't believe didn't get healed. Now, Joe Dispenza has wrote many books on this subject, and he damaged his spine massively when he was about 22 years old. He lay in bed for 6 months. Doctors told him that he would never walk again. He didn't accept that. He decided that he was going to use his mind to rebuild his spine. And over 6 months, miraculously, apparently, his body completely rebuilt his spine to a point of perfection. And so he's gone on for the last 40 years speaking about this miracle and telling people how they can do it. And one of his greatest books is called We Are the Placebo, because it is our belief that actually heals. I've done this many times in my life, in varying regions, and I know it to be true. The fear in relation to my back is powerful. I have now to eliminate it, and it will take time. But daily, through my meditation, that's one of the things I work on. I visualize the healing of that whole region, with the bone, the cartilage, the muscles, the nerves, the tendons. Every single cell is healing into perfection. So that's one of the things I work on. Another one of the things I work on is my getting closer to God. And how we get closer to God is via the stilling of our minds, the softening of our hearts, eliminating all thoughts, all impurities, settling down with an intention of entering into the kingdom of God. When we completely clear our minds and our hearts are absolutely still, we are on that trajectory. We cannot harness any hate, envy, jealousy, ill feeling at all. Fears, anxieties, all have to be eliminated. When we eliminate those thought processes and our mind becomes absolutely free, we enter into the pure awareness. It's within the pure awareness that we can then meet with God. So I will sit here and meditate for 2 hours a day. Once in the morning, once in the evening time. And in other times of my life, I've done up to 5 or 6 hours a day, depending on what I needed to work on. On one occasion, to purify my mind and body, it took me between 4 and 6 weeks of meditating 5 hours a day. And after that period, I felt a deep and rich purity that wasn't there before. I also reflect upon my humanisms, how I move within this environment. And because I have little to do with people in reality, then I focus on you, the viewer, on this facility, on what I say to you and what you say to me. And sometimes I step outside of a particular energy and I enter into another, because I've come to know that the energies within me, the spirits within me, are vast. The facility for contacting varying energies is ours for the taking. And this is why we know that people can lend themselves to all different sorts of mindsets if they want to achieve this, that, and the other. Some people go very dark, some people go very light, some people dance. they experience many varying varieties of energy forms. And depending on how adventurous you are, depends on how many of those you experience. How brave you are depends on how dark you go. And so we can visit the dark regions and we learn from those. And this is like one of the persons in the comments said, that the author Dante, when he wrote the trilogy of Inferno, he first had to visit hell before he could enter into paradise. And so I address my shadow. Due to my personages, due to my experience, due to my abilities, I'm a very self-empowered person with multiple facets of energy and spirit. And I do have a propensity for haughtiness due to this. And I can exhibit an energy of deep conceit. And I express this. And I look down on the masses. And I'll express certain humanisms and weaknesses that I know people possess. I may have possessed them in the past. I may possess some of them now. I may have overcome many of them. And through my labour, my discipline, and my strength, I try to impart that onto other people. But I know that by imparting these things gently isn't very effective. It's not shocking enough. I know that people's consciousness, their egos, need to be shocked before they will enter into another pattern of thinking. And when you shock people's egos in this way, when you enliven their subliminal knowledge of what they are, how they fail themselves, it's not a place that they want to revisit. It's termed the Jungian shadow. Very few people want to visit that place within them, which is the most grotesque and detestable. But you see, I allow my shadow to come out into the light. And I act out my shadow with caricatures. And I become larger than life. My shadow becomes larger than life with my deep conceit and my deep haughtiness. And I act how I'm better than everybody around me. And when I do that, it frees my shadow. And it frees the body. And so I don't have to hide anything. I don't have to contain anything. I don't have to keep things concealed. I let you, the audience, see my failings under a magnifying glass. I show you what they are. I put a spotlight on my shadow. I step under a huge magnifying glass and I enable you to see, so you can openly question criticize me, think terribly of me, see how weak you think I am. I allow you to do that because that sets me free. And when I'm exhibiting my shadow, that which is haughty and conceited, many people, their shadows are touched also by my shadow. But they don't want to allow their shadow to come into the spotlight. And their shadow fights fiercely to stay within the darkness. And their shadows lash out at me exhibiting mine. Now what I will say, the vast majority of my viewers, you don't do that. You have resolve with your shadow. Either you have become masters of keeping your shadows concealed, or there's a certain wisdom there which doesn't enable your shadow to come out in a negative way, probably knowing that that will draw attention to your shadows. Some people don't have that wisdom, and they have knee-jerk reactions which stems from their pain, their suppressed knowledge of their failings. They know they can do better, and yet they're too weak or lazy to do it. And so when that is pointed out, it is most offensive, and people strike out. So that's what I also do in my meditations. I assimilate my shadow, and I look for anything else. And throughout my videos over the years, I've spoken about many of my inner fears. And I would point the finger at many people of their ugliness, of their obesity, of their frailness, of their weakness, of their skinniness, of their stupidness, and all these things. Because over my life, I've worked on all of those things. I worked very, very hard at not being stupid, at not being obese, at not being weak, at not being ignorant, at not being all of the negative variants of human attributes. I strive for perfection on a daily basis. Evidently, I fail myselves on occasion, but I embrace those failings. There has been no one who has been immaculate, save for the Christ. And I wonder, when I'm reading biblical scripture, how Christ managed to abate his judgment and become pure of mind and egoless. Well, it's very simple. It's because he wasn't human. He was the transformation of God into a human form, but he didn't have human failings. So I wonder, will I ever be able to have that level of love for my fellow man? And I concede that I don't think I will, simply because maybe I'm not God incarnated to the same degree that Jesus was. Maybe Jesus is just the idea of the perfect human being that we should all aspire to. And if that's the case, then we can forgive ourselves for not raising ourselves up to the purity of the envisioned beauty and perfection of Christ. But it's a goal that we may want to head towards. It's an idea that we might want to embrace, to be the best possible version of ourselves. And I wonder if we became egoless to the extent whereby we accepted all of man's failings and we never judged. I wonder if this human being fiction could survive, because it would mean a free-for-all. And if we had a free-for-all, I often ponder what that would mean. Whilst in meditation, I contemplate on facets of my life which I want to improve in. And I ask for inspiration so that I can convey myself in greater clarity. I ask for information that will enable me to express myself with greater wisdom. I ask for assistance in writing my book, which is about how I have come to know God. And when I do that, I'm then guided. And so we could say that that's a form of prayer. And prayer is very effective because miraculously those prayers will make manifest in the shortest of times. And then I will be presented with the relevant videos or literature, inspiration, cosmic downloads. I'll be guided in a way which enables me to achieve that which I want to achieve. I don't ever ask for assistance in subduing the facets of my egos that most people will consider to be abhorrent. I don't want to give the aura of perfection. I think if you give the aura of perfection, like some people we know who do on YouTube, I think they are setting themselves up for a fall. But by my showing you my failings on a daily basis, there's nowhere to fall to. I've shown you what I am potentially, and you can see, you can estimate, you can gauge, you can judge. Whatever your assessment is, I allow you to do that. And so you all know that I am not trying to raise myself up on a pedestal. Albeit I speak haughtily, I readily bring myself back down. And those of you who have wisdom can see this. So my shadow comes out and it's larger than life. And I'm genius, and I'm perfect, and I have the wisdom of the cosmos. But the very act of me saying that brings me back down to earth. You see? And as long as my feet are firmly on earth, I can't fall no further. And so we see that there's a paradox going on. On the one hand, I'm trying to raise up into the spirit realm, but on the other hand, I'm rather vigorously pulling myself back down. Some may say that that's a level of self-destruction. And we do this self-sabotage. But I, as an earthly being, as a grounded being, I feel more comfortable in knowing that every one of you have seen my failings, and you will never be surprised because you've already seen them. Whereas there are people that we see on YouTube and they seem whiter than white, don't they? And I wonder, my mind just wanders. What are they really like? What flaws do they really have? How shocking it would be if they were revealed. But rest assured, in time, all of those hidden shadows will be revealed. Just like it was for people of bygone days. For instance, Albert Einstein, with all of his wisdom, he had a disabled daughter who him and his wife decided to put into a mental institution and never ever mention throughout all of his life, because of the fears that that would pertain to if the media heard about it. That the great Albert Einstein gave life to a mentally handicapped person. Then we hear stories about the great Gandhi, who used to beat his wife with a cane and order her around like she was a slave. And then there are many people who have failings and sexual tendencies and perversions. And Lord knows we've heard enough stories of priests. And when I look at popes, I swear that those popes are the devil himself. Where better to hide than in plain sight? What better pretense to hold than the holiest of holies when you are Satan yourself? So I will never proclaim that I am pure and white and holy. I will always show you that albeit I am God, the same as the next man, I am experiencing what it's like to be a humble human being, fraught with myriad of failings. And when I have satiated those thoughts, when I have brought attention to them, and I have done my self-healing, I've done my self-chastising, I have experienced and felt my humanism, I then slip away into God consciousness. back to where I came from.